The day everything changed for Michael didn't begin with any grand event. It started with a flickering office light, a half-warm cup of coffee, and the usual hum of keyboards in the glass-walled building of Greenwood Tech Solutions in Seattle, Washington. But what made the morning unforgettable was the unexpected email he received, an urgent request from the company's notoriously private CEO, Victoria Hale, asking him personally to fix her computer. For years, Michael had watched her walk through the hallways like a quiet storm, controlled, polished, unreachable. She carried an air of steady discipline, a woman who had built her empire brick by brick without letting anyone close enough to see her weaknesses. And yet, somehow, she had called for him. That alone was enough to shake his day. But nothing compared to what happened when he opened her malfunctioning system and saw a photograph tucked away in a folder labeled simply, Before. Viewer engagement CTA first, after hook. Before we dive deeper into this emotional story, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances. It truly helps stories like this reach more hearts. Michael had never been the type to pry, yet the picture appeared accidentally in the system's preview window the moment he ran the diagnostics. The photo showed a younger version of Victoria, maybe taken 7 or 8 years back, her hair tied up loosely, her smile warm and unguarded, her eyes holding lightness he had never seen in her present expression. She looked soft, almost innocent, like someone who had never yet been broken by the world. He quickly minimized the window, feeling guilty for even glimpsing such a personal image. But the moment was already burned into his mind. When Victoria returned to check the progress, she noticed a faint shift in his expression, an unspoken curiosity he hadn't managed to hide completely. She paused behind him, arms folded, posture rigid yet trembling slightly as though she was preparing for impact. And then, in a voice he had never heard from her, fragile, uncertain, almost begging, she asked him if he thought she was pretty, not in the way a confident woman asks for validation, but in the hesitant manner of someone who had been told too many times that they weren't enough. The question hit him like a tidal wave, because he had never imagined someone like her, someone so strong, successful, and admired, holding such a deep insecurity. That single moment lodged itself inside him like a seed, and from it grew a story far more painful, tender, and transformative than he ever expected. Michael had always felt out of place at the company. He came from a small Christian household in Ohio, raised by a single mother who worked double shifts at a hospital, and he carried the quiet humility of someone who learned early how to survive without drawing much attention. He was good with computers, good with people, good with fixing things that others couldn't see beyond the surface. But he never thought the CEO of a multi-million-dollar tech giant would notice someone like him. Yet the more he looked at Victoria that day, the careful way she inhaled, the faint tremble in her fingers, the rigid tension behind her eyes, the more he realized she wasn't the untouchable icon people thought she was. She was a woman who had been carrying invisible weight for far too long. As he finished repairing her system, Victoria hovered near the window of her office, staring at the skyline as if trying to find something lost in the clouds. Michael sensed there was a story behind that photo, something she kept buried beneath her perfectly tailored suits and controlled expressions. She had a way of moving through the world like a person with walls so high they touched the ceiling, walls she didn't let anyone climb. But the moment she asked her question, the smallest crack appeared, revealing a glimpse of the human heart beneath. Michael returned to his small workspace feeling strangely shaken. He couldn't shake her question from his mind. He wondered what could make someone as accomplished and poised as Victoria feel the need to seek validation from a man she barely knew. The more he thought about it, the more he found himself drawn to a truth he didn't fully understand yet. Sometimes the people who seem strongest are the ones who feel the most alone. Over the next few weeks, something subtle shifted between them. Victoria began stopping by his department under the guise of needing system updates or performance optimizations. She often lingered, her posture stiff but her eyes softening little by little. She asked him about his family, about his life in Ohio, about his faith, about what made him pursue technology instead of something more traditionally ambitious. He told her about his childhood, about the nights he spent repairing broken radios because they were the only things in the house that listened back, as he used to say. Listened with an attention that surprised him, as though she found peace in hearing someone speak honestly without pretense. Michael soon learned that Victoria's life had not been as polished as the world believed. The photo he had accidentally seen was from a time before a painful divorce, before public scrutiny, before corporate responsibility hardened her into someone she barely recognized. She had once been open-hearted, trusting, and carefree, but over the years the world had carved pieces out of her until she learned to protect herself with silence and distance. Hearing her story made Michael's chest ache with something unfamiliar, empathy, admiration, and a growing tenderness that scared him more than he wanted to admit. There were evenings when the office lights dimmed and most employees had gone home, yet Victoria was still there, working tirelessly, her posture bent with exhaustion. Michael often found excuses to stay late as well, quietly ensuring she wasn't alone. In the vast, echoing building, sometimes they shared small conversations, nothing dramatic, nothing overly personal, but in those quiet spaces between words, something gentle and complicated began to grow. Then came the night everything changed. The power went out during a storm, plunging the office into darkness except for the backup emergency lights. Michael found Victoria sitting alone in her glass-walled office, the storm outside reflecting something turbulent inside her. She looked exhausted, not physically but emotionally, like the weight she had been carrying for years had finally become too heavy. She wasn't crying, but her eyes were red, not from tears but from holding them back for too long. Michael walked in without knocking, sensing her silent plea for company. She told him that her ex-husband had posted something cruel about her online again, a lie that was quickly gaining traction, painting her as cold and heartless. People believed it easily because they only saw her strict professional exterior, never the woman who stayed up late writing hand-signed thank you cards to every employee on Christmas, or the woman who donated anonymously to shelters every winter. The world judged her without knowing her, and she had grown tired of fighting shadows. Michael listened quietly. He didn't tell her she was strong. He didn't tell her she would be fine. Instead, he told her what he truly saw. Not the CEO, not the legend, but the woman who asked him if she was pretty. He told her she was human, and that was more important than anything else. He told her the world didn't need her perfection, it needed her sincerity, and for the first time in their acquaintance, Victoria's emotional barriers collapsed. She let herself breathe, truly breathe, without pretending she was unbreakable. That night marked a turning point between them. Victoria stopped hiding behind her carefully curated professionalism. She started speaking openly, laughing more freely, and letting herself be imperfect in Michael's presence. And Michael, in turn, found himself drawn deeper into her world, a world that felt both fragile and powerful, like the quiet moment before sunrise. Months passed, and people began noticing subtle changes in the CEO they once considered rigid and distant. She smiled more, she listened more, she walked through the office with warmth instead of cold determination, and while no one could pinpoint the exact reason, many suspected it had something to do with the quiet technician from Ohio who always seemed to be nearby. One evening, while they stood together overlooking the city from her office, Victoria admitted something that made Michael's heart tighten. She said the photo he'd seen that day, the before image, wasn't just a memory. It was a reminder of a version of herself she feared she had lost forever. She didn't ask him again if he thought she was pretty, because she already knew the answer didn't matter. What mattered was that she was finally starting to feel visible again, not as a CEO, not as an image, but as a woman. Second to last emotional CTA near the end. If this story is touching your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and share. Your support helps these real, human stories reach more souls who need them. As the months turned to a year, Michael and Victoria's bond deepened into something steady, meaningful, and quietly transforming. It wasn't a whirlwind romance or a dramatic confession. It was something built through patience, trust, and the bravery of two people who had once believed they were invisible in different ways. Michael helped her rebuild her confidence, Not by telling her who she should be, but by showing her who she already was. And Victoria helped him see that sometimes the smallest acts, listening, understanding, caring, can change the entire trajectory of someone's life. Special request line. Before the ending arrives, please comment below. Kindness changes lives. In the end, Victoria didn't need the world to see her beauty. She only needed one person to see her humanity, and that changed everything. And for Michael, everything he had ever repaired in his life paled in comparison to witnessing a broken heart rediscover its light. Their story didn't end with perfection. It ended with hope, and sometimes that is more beautiful than anything else in the world. Final CTA. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps these emotional stories alive and helps them reach others who may need comfort today.